He still lived in the same modest house decades after becoming a billionaire. Same quiet neighborhood, same simple routines. Neighbors watched him drive himself, eat at ordinary diners, and keep his habits unchanged year after year. For a long time, nothing about his life looked like extreme success. Warren Buffett didn't look ambitious. He looked boring. That's what confused people. While others chased bigger titles, louder lifestyles, and faster wins, he stayed patient. While markets boomed and crashed, his behavior barely changed. No rush to upgrade. No pressure to impress. The wealth didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived slowly, then all at once. I'm Alex. Today, we'll walk through 10 strange behaviors that tend to show up before real wealth does, not after. We'll move from what looks unimpressive on the surface to what actually works over time. If you understand these behaviors early, you stop chasing the wrong signals and start building progress that can survive pressure. If you recognize yourself in a few of them, you're probably further ahead than you think, even if it doesn't feel that way yet. And if none of them sound familiar, this may feel uncomfortable. That discomfort matters. It points to exactly where the shift needs to happen. And it starts with the part most people don't expect. Building wealth rarely feels good while it's happening. Number 1, accepting that building wealth doesn't feel good. Building wealth is uncomfortable precisely because it doesn't reward you along the way. Most days, it feels flat. No applause. No clear signals you're winning. You put money into accounts you don't touch. You skip upgrades you could technically afford. You watch friends celebrate purchases while your progress stays invisible. That emotional gap is the filter. Here's the part that surprises people. The boredom isn't a flaw in the process. It is the process. When saving and investing are working correctly, they remove stimulation. Automatic transfers happen without a rush. Long-term investments grow quietly, sometimes painfully slowly. The absence of excitement is what keeps you from making emotional mistakes. Think about how most financial losses actually happen. Not from lack of income, but from chasing a feeling. Relief, excitement, validation. The car upgrade that felt deserved. The investment that sounded exciting at a dinner table. The lifestyle bump that quietly locked in higher monthly stress. Wealth builders learn to sit through the silence instead. Over time, something flips. While others need constant wins to stay motivated, you stop needing proof. Progress shows up as stability first. Fewer money arguments, less anxiety checking balances, more time between decisions. That calm isn't flashy, but it's expensive to buy later. If you can tolerate months, sometimes years, where money feels boring, you unlock something most people never reach. Not because you did more, but because you didn't quit when it stopped feeling good. Number 2, prioritizing optionality over status. Future millionaires don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "What does this lock me into?" That single shift changes everything. When income goes up, most people upgrade fast. New car payment, bigger house, higher fixed costs. On paper, it looks like progress. In real life, it shrinks their room to breathe. Optionality is the opposite. It's keeping monthly obligations low enough that one bad quarter doesn't force panic. It's having savings that let you walk away from a job that turns toxic or say no to a deal that feels wrong. That freedom rarely looks impressive. In fact, it often looks like underliving your means. You see it everywhere. 2 people earn similar incomes. One stretches for the nicer zip code and the premium lifestyle. The other keeps the older car, rents longer, then builds cash and flexibility. 5 years later, one is stuck protecting their image. The other can change jobs, start something new, or wait out a downturn. Status is loud and fragile. It needs constant feeding. Miss one paycheck, and the stress shows up fast. Optionality is quiet and durable. Once you have it, status loses its pull. You stop rushing decisions just to feel like you're moving forward. The real flex isn't what's parked in the driveway. It's how easily you can walk away when the numbers or your life demand it. Number 3, spending aggressively, but only on specific things. From the outside, this behavior looks inconsistent, even irresponsible. Someone hesitates over a $70 dinner, keeps the same phone for 4 years, and drives a paid-off car. Then, without warning, they'll spend thousands on a course, a tool, a coach, or a piece of software no one else notices. That contrast confuses people, and that's the point. Future millionaires don't spend to feel good. They spend to remove friction. They're constantly asking questions most people skip. Will this save me hours every week? Will this reduce stress I keep carrying? Will this raise my earning ceiling without needing more time? If the answer is yes, the price matters far less. Think about where money quietly leaks: disorganized finances that cost time every month, and poor health that drains energy and focus, manual work that could be automated cheaply. These costs don't show up as one big bill. They show up as fatigue, missed opportunities, and slow progress. That's what future millionaires are willing to pay aggressively to eliminate. What they won't spend on is anything that only buys appearance. No return, no leverage, no compounding effect, just a short hit of validation. Every dollar is expected to come back with something extra: time, capacity, resilience, or income. Once you start spending this way, it gets uncomfortable fast, because the math forces honesty. If it doesn't pay you back, it doesn't get your money. Number 4, being brutally honest with themselves. Most financial setbacks don't come from bad information. They come from gentle self-deception, the kind that sounds reasonable. I'll fix it when things slow down. This month was just unusual. I'm just not a money person. Future millionaires don't let those stories linger. When something isn't working, they don't ask why life is unfair. They ask what input is broken. If savings aren't growing, they don't blame the market. They look at spending habits. If income stalls, they don't wait for motivation. They examine skills, leverage, or time use. That shift removes comfort fast, but it creates clarity even faster. You see this in real life all the time. Someone carries credit card balances for years, calling it temporary. Someone keeps a side project alive that hasn't paid in months, calling it almost there. Future millionaires call it what it is: a leak, a distraction, a bad system. They don't protect their ego at the expense of their future. If a strategy fails twice, it gets questioned. If a habit costs energy without returns, it gets cut. No drama, no shame, just adjustment. This kind of honesty feels harsh at first, but it turns vague anxiety into specific problems. And specific problems can be fixed. That's the quiet advantage. While others are stuck explaining their situation, future millionaires are already correcting it. Number 5, thinking in systems instead of goals. Goals sound productive, but they're fragile. They rely on motivation, timing, and mood. Systems don't. Future millionaires figure this out early, usually after realizing that willpower works great, right up until life gets busy. Instead of saying, "I should save more," they set up automatic transfers that happen without thought. Instead of trying to time investments, they schedule contributions that run whether markets feel good or terrible. Money moves even on tired weeks, stressful months, or during chaos. That's not discipline, that's design. You see the difference during downturns. When prices fall, goal-driven people freeze, waiting for clarity. System-driven people keep buying because nothing changed in the process. When income jumps, then systems allocate automatically instead of letting lifestyle creep take over. Progress keeps happening quietly, while others debate what to do. This is why their growth looks slow at first. No dramatic leaps, no exciting stories, just steady accumulation. Then one day, the gap is obvious, and people assume it was luck. The real insight is uncomfortable. The more you remove yourself from decisions, the better your outcomes become. Future millionaires don't try to feel motivated every day. They build setups where motivation doesn't matter. And once systems are running, something shifts. They start worrying less about effort and more about survival when things go wrong. Number 6, obsessively tracking boring numbers. Future millionaires know something most people learn too late. You don't go broke because an investment dips. You go broke because cash flow snaps. That's why they track numbers most people avoid: monthly inflow, fixed expenses, how long they could survive if income stopped tomorrow. While others talk about returns and predictions, they're quietly checking burn rate, rent or mortgage, insurance, subscriptions that crept up unnoticed, which costs are flexible and which ones don't care how you feel. This isn't paranoia, it's awareness. And awareness removes surprises. Look at how financial stress usually shows up. Someone feels fine until a repair hits, hours get cut, or rates reset. Panic follows because the math was never rehearsed. Future millionaires rehearse it constantly, and they know their margin of error. They know how much volatility their lifestyle can absorb before things break. That clarity changes behavior fast. When you know your runway, you don't overreact. When you know your floor, you don't make desperate moves. Decisions become calmer because emotion isn't driving them. Here's the quiet advantage most people miss. Tracking boring numbers turns uncertainty into something measurable. And once uncertainty is measured, it stops being terrifying. That's why stability shows up before wealth ever does. Confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from knowing the numbers won't betray you when things get uncomfortable. Number 7, waiting longer than feels comfortable. Waiting makes future millionaires look lazy to impatient people. In a culture trained to move fast, doing nothing feels like falling behind. But they understand something subtle. Urgency is rarely neutral. When you're rushed, someone else usually benefits. Sales timelines, trending investments, social pressure, or fear dressed up as opportunity. So they wait, longer than feels socially acceptable. They don't buy the moment income bumps up. They don't jump into an investment because it's hot. They let the first wave of excitement pass, then the second, then the third. If the decision still makes sense when nobody's watching and emotions cool off, then they act. This habit quietly prevents disasters. Overpaying for assets, locking into bad loans, not committing to obligations that feel fine today, but suffocating later. Most people call that hesitation. Future millionaires call it filtering. Think about how many financial mistakes start with, "I didn't want to miss out." That phrase rarely ends well. Waiting exposes weak ideas and protects capital without any dramatic effort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Impatience usually isn't about time being valuable. It's about insecurity. Wanting progress you can show, wanting movement you can explain. Future millionaires don't need that reassurance. They trust the process before it produces visible results. They know wealth isn't built by moving fast. It's built by moving correctly and surviving long enough for time to do the heavy lifting. Number 8, preparing for downside. More than upside, future millionaires spend more time asking, "What could break this?" than imagining what success will look like. That sounds pessimistic, but it's practical. Income dips, markets stall, health issues show up, plans change. They assume interruptions will happen, and they design around that reality. Before chasing bigger returns, they build buffers, emergency cash that actually covers months, not weeks, expenses that can be cut quickly without wrecking their life. Income streams that aren't all tied to one employer or one fragile trend. That preparation is why one bad month feels uncomfortable, not catastrophic. You see the difference when conditions tighten. Some people panic at the first setback because everything was optimized for good times only, and others stay steady because they planned for friction from the start. They didn't max leverage just because it was available. They didn't stretch their lifestyle to the edge of their income. They left room. Here's the part most people miss. Survival always comes before growth. If one mistake can wipe you out, returns don't matter. If stress forces rushed decisions, strategy doesn't matter. Preparing for downside isn't about fear. It's about durability. And durability compounds. While others are recovering, selling, or starting over, future millionaires are still standing, still investing, still calm. When chaos hits, they don't scramble. They reposition. That's not luck. It's preparation paying off right on schedule. Number 9, remaining calm when others panic. When volatility hits, future millionaires don't get louder. They get quieter. Markets drop, headlines scream, layoffs circulate, rates shift. And while everyone else refreshes apps and group chats, they step back, not because they don't care, but because panic was never part of the plan. This calm isn't personality, it's preparation showing up on time. They already know their numbers. They know how long they can wait. They've stress tested their lifestyle against worse scenarios than the one unfolding. So when fear shows up, it has nowhere to hook. You can see it in real moments. During sell-offs, some people dump assets just to feel relief. During uncertainty, others freeze, waiting for clarity that never arrives. Future millionaires often do the least dramatic thing possible, nothing. And in that nothing turns out to be the winning move more often than people expect. They zoom out when others zoom in, patterns instead of headlines, cycles instead of moments, structure instead of noise. That emotional neutrality becomes an edge. While others react to stop the pain, they let time work. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Losses usually don't come from events themselves. They come from emotional collapse during those events. Future millionaires don't try to predict storms. They make sure they won't drown in one. That's why they look boring during the buildup and strangely untouchable on the other side. Number 10, caring less about other people's opinions over time. As future millionaires get older, something shifts quietly. They stop crowdsourcing decisions. Early on, most people ask everyone, friends, family, coworkers who earn similar money and carry similar stress. The advice sounds supportive, but it usually carries one thing underneath it: fear. Over time, they notice a pattern. People don't recommend what's optimal. They recommend what would make them feel safe. Someone stuck in a job discourages risk. Someone drowning in debt mocks discipline. Someone stretched thin warns against patience. None of it is malicious. It's incentive-driven. So future millionaires go quieter. They stop explaining why they're not upgrading yet. They stop defending modest choices that don't match their income. They stop arguing with people who confuse confidence with competence. Silence becomes a form of protection. This is why their decisions start to look strange from the outside. Spending aggressively on something invisible while skipping something flashy. Saying no to opportunities that sound impressive. Saying yes to paths no one understands yet. Here's the subtle advantage. When opinions lose their power, clarity increases. Decisions get cleaner. Stress drops. You're no longer optimizing for approval. You're optimizing for outcomes. And opinions stop mattering the moment you realize they don't pay your bills, don't absorb your risk, and don't live with the consequences. Results can wait. Silence can't. Key takeaways. What separates future millionaires isn't intelligence, income, or confidence. It's tolerance. Tolerance for boredom, for silence, for slow progress that doesn't come with social proof. Wealth grows in environments that feel emotionally unrewarding at first, which is exactly why most people abandon the process early. Across every behavior, the same pattern shows up. Less reaction, fewer explanations, more structure, more margin. Decisions are designed to survive stress, not impress observers. Systems replace motivation. Math replaces hope. Optionality replaces status. And calm replaces panic long before money shows up in size. This isn't about being extreme or perfect. It's about reducing fragility over time. When life tightens, fragile setups snap. Durable ones keep moving. That difference compounds quietly. If this way of thinking feels uncomfortable, that's usually a signal, not a warning. The next video builds on this by showing why visible success often fades and what quietly replaces it over time. Would you like me to finalize this script, or do you want to adjust tone or pacing before locking it in?